or we can just introduce through our introductions. Can you hear me okay? Okay.
Well, thank you everybody for joining another successful
Yeah.
podcast with Sister Soul Sessions. This is season 2, episode 11.
Yes. We have made it. And tonight you're joined by your hosts, of course, Brittany and Amanda, and our executive creative director got kicked out. But we also have our very special guest. We're so blessed that she's joining us again as a redo of her episode, Miss Gypsyblac, aka Naya Norell. We're so honored to have you. Thank you so much for joining us again. Her first episode, she was one of our first guests, and we didn't have the sound or anything right, so we really wanted to do this again. So thank you so much for giving us your time. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much. As we get started tonight, are you muted? Okay. As we get started tonight as our episode 11 in season 2, this is very special dates for us. This is my birthday month. So
The
Aries.
big dog birthday.
So yes, very special treat actually to be speaking with someone that I counsel with often, someone that I know whose business has been growing and expanding and changing into even more than I'm sure that she expected. So really would love to dive into that. So for episode 11, I'd like to just introduce Miss Naya Norell. If you go ahead and speak a little bit about yourself and about your business, we'd love to get to know you.
Wonderful. So as the lovely introduction that you guys gave me, just to add on to that. Oh, she's back. Hey.
Yes. Hi. Sorry about that.
Yeah, so just to add on to that, I consider myself to be just a safe place, a counsel for spiritual planning, energy work, candles, herbs, all that type of stuff. Just the old-fashioned medicine woman. Short and sweet. I can't hear Brittany. Can anybody else hear
It done
Brittany?
muted you, sis.
I can't hear you right now.
But I like how you put
And then
that
it froze
there.
myself.
Let me add on to my title.
Muted myself. But as you say, old-fashioned, I know that a lot of people are moving into this and using it as something as new age, or things that people are kind of getting back to your roots, things like that. Where do you classify that, and how important is it with your practice of understanding the lingo, understanding where people are growing in the spirituality and things like that?
Well, I do appreciate the growth for any practice, right? I definitely appreciate the growth, but I do believe that there's nothing new under the sun. So that's probably the only reason why I don't necessarily classify it as new age, because I'm not doing anything new. I'm simply recycling, remembering the practices of our ancestors. So it just simple things like mindfulness, breath work, chemic yoga, our journaling practices, candle work, candle meditations, Reiki meditations, things like that are just simple things that have always been done. They just get resurfaced or repurposed with new names and refed back to us. So for me, I guess I don't necessarily classify it as new age, because these are practices that have been around since Egyptian times. So
you feel like you're just kind of reverting back to who you are, really, then?
yeah, just a remembering. I think we all have these practices and these abilities to access if we just take the time to remember. Like we're spiritual beings having a human experience, and part of the experience is to remember. So as you remember, things get easier for you. So something that actually is a part of like my oracle readings. Whenever I do a reading, first thing someone says is, "Oh, I knew that," and "Oh yeah, I knew that already," or "Oh, you ain't tell me nothing I ain't already know." Yeah, I can't. That's not the point. It's just to provide a level of clarity, a level of reassurance, build a level of confidence, or of that nature. So the whole entire experience is simply remembering. Remembering who you are, remembering your power, remembering your purpose, remembering your destiny, things like that. And we forget sometimes, but it's okay. That's what mirrors are for.
So do you feel like that's a selling point for people who are looking for spirituality or trying to get back into practices that maybe were forgotten? Like, do you have to convince them it's just, them remembering who they are, or is this something that is completely against, what people's religions are? Like, how does that whole nuance work?
That's a very, very good question. I think, I'm sorry, give me the question one more time because it was so good.
Well, because, like I said, I guess I kind of still put it in that new age genre. And with a lot of the practices, it seems like you have to give like almost a selling point as far as people kind of going away from what they know. And it's like, hey, this is you
This
remembering,
is
not so much
different.
something new. Yeah. Like how
Um,
does that work?
how does it? I guess it becomes the the new age practices or building your own person. I think the selling point is that your spiritual practice is personal, right? And because your spiritual practice is personal, it's not gonna look like mine. It shouldn't look like mine. It shouldn't look like yours. It shouldn't look like yours, and it shouldn't look like yours, right? It's a personal experience. So when people come and they have religious trauma, so to speak, we all have had a little bit of that. I've heard of people of that poor experiences growing up in the church or things like that. So it's a reminder that, well, this practice that you came here with me to create is going to be, it doesn't have to look like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to look like what you need it to be. So if you need a level of reassurance, or if you need a calming space, or if you need, you know what I'm saying, like, it doesn't have to look like anything that you've experienced before. You don't have to bring, you know church hurt and all that type of stuff into today's practices, if I answered your question.
Right. No, no. I mean, yeah, because I always wonder, I know with even just talking about it, with my upbringing, and sometimes I'll even just talk about how, like, oh yeah, no, I just, had some herbs, or, I healed myself because I made like a tonic or something, and like I'll get some, of like the old church mothers, people I respect or whatever, but they'll just be like, oh, you messing with that witchcraft or something. I'm like, no, it's no,
And that's
it was just
heartbreaking, right?
it just grew
And
on the
that's
ground. I just use
heartbreaking.
it as medicine, like, but
I
yeah.
think that's where it becomes what people are comfortable with, right? Because if so,
Thanks.
just what you just said, for that example of what you just said, if someone says that they had a dream about grandma last night, or they dreamed about fish and now somebody pregnant, that's socially acceptable. But if
Right.
you say that, you're going to go light a candle and pray at your altar because you want to purposely, intentionally connect with your ancestor, it'll be like, oh my God, that's outrageous. Like, why would you do that, right? So I think it's branding. Branding, I think, is where that comes from. It does, people just associate what they want to associate with it, right?
Right,
Or
right,
not what they want.
right.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, right. So it could be a level of what they want or just what they know and their past experiences, but it's more so just a level of what it actually is,
Right.
right? And I guess that's why it's personal, and you have to really, you do the work so that those type of that level of commentary doesn't matter, right? Because you're not going to stop making those tonics that make you feel better, are you?
Right, right.
Right? You know what I'm saying? You're not gonna stop putting that cinnamon in there, right? And it's like, so once you find what works for you, you don't have to have the back and forth. There is no back and forth because you know it works, and that's why it's a personal practice. So I think that's what it is. You just quiet the noise because people can only speak from their experiences.
Right.
People can only speak from what they know, right? So quiet the noise. It don't matter. Drink your tonic. It works. Lay on your
Right,
mat. It
right.
works.
It works.
Light your candle. It works. You know, sweep your front porch with the outdoor broom because it
Right. I was
works.
just finna say, because I didn't have no man walk through my house at the beginning of New Year's or none of that. And I've been having a
See?
good year.
Okay, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
You
Like,
know,
so
I
I
didn't
think
get to make no collard
so
greens, but money been coming in.
so that's I'm glad you said it like that. So that's an example of, that's actually an old tradition that I actually do live by, that I was raised with and I live by, right? So listen, when I tell you I made sure all the dirty clothes was clean because you can't bring the new year
New
in
Year's with dirty
with
clothes. Yep.
Right,
dirty
right.
clothes. I made sure that I had collard greens. I made sure that I had black eyed peas. What is it? Collard greens, for money, black eyed peas for good luck, and cornbread is for something else. I can't remember right now. But
And see, that's a new one. I didn't hear the
But I
cornbread.
definitely had all of them.
I definitely had all of them, right? I had all of them.
Didn't.
But there are some that I don't lean into.
Yeah.
Right? There are some that I don't necessarily lean into, but I think that's why it's a personal practice. You take what works for you, and there's no one should. I don't want to say no one does, but no one should judge you, and no one does, gives that commentary, because it what works. If you're doing what works for you, you're doing what keeps your connection strong, what keeps you connected to your source, to your higher power, to your God, right?
Yeah. And constant practice of that, and learning, navigating through this world that we're in, and how to combat all of those traumas and things that you were saying. Now, I know with your practices, some of them also include like Reiki and things like that. How did you turn that into a business? Now, I know that a lot of times that starts from, personal things, but how does that convert into a business, and, how does that work for you now?
So Reiki, for me, my interest in Reiki started back years ago, when I just had a complete, like, overstimulation of energy in the body. Like, I couldn't, it was so hard to function, like just being overstimulated all the time.
Yeah.
And I had my first Reiki treatment. It was in Detroit, Michigan. I flew in, had a treatment, and I actually could feel like a weight being lifted, right? Because the idea behind Reiki energy work, right? Reiki is the new age term,
Okay.
but
Right.
the idea behind laying hands or energy work is the idea that the energy is stored in the body. So it is stored in the cells, and it does, if it stays stagnant and it's not moved around, then it will cause headaches, it will cause depression, it will cause anxiety, it will cause disease. So it's important that the elementary school science taught us that energy isn't destroyed, it is simply transferred. So if you think, I don't want to put anybody in the negative space right now, but if you think of something that made you happy, right? Think of something that made your insides light up, right? You felt that, right? Like, you felt like your heart skip a beat, or you felt the butterflies in your stomach, right? That's energy. So the same thing with something of the opposite of the latter, right? So if something made you fearful, if something left you in pain, you have to do something with that energy now. You have to release it. In a simpler way, I could explain it is like when people tell you, don't let that one little thing ruin your whole day.
Yeah.
You got to let that one little thing go. Well, sometimes it's harder to let big things go. It's harder to let that thing that happened to you when you're 5 years old go.
Yeah, and you have
Or
no
maybe,
release of it. Yeah.
you need a proper release of it, right? You need a proper release from your wound. And I think that's why I started to create the Gypsy experience, because it takes a level of different healing mobilities, right? So releasing trauma from the womb could look like steaming, could look like herbal teas, could look like the deep meditations that the trance meditations that Reiki can send you into, right? Maybe it'll look like mushrooms, because you need to relax your body so that you can actually recall, because that's often something I've heard clients speak to as well, that they started to remember certain things after the Reiki meditations. Like, I forgot that it even happened to me. So now when you recall it, you can deal with it now. You can address it. You can send it on its way, right? So you ever met some of those people where it's like, what you really mad at? Like, you really mad at something that happened with something else, right? So you have to be able to pull up whatever that thing was and address it so that you can move on, and you can just approach life with a level of mental clarity and a clearer head. And because I know I'm on a rant now, but what I've also learned is when you keep that energy stored, it impacts your ability to draw things in. It impacts your ability to manifest. It impacts your ability to hold and maintain relationships, whether that be platonic or romantic, right? So just harboring energy will harboring poor energy will impact how you show
And
up in the
repel
world,
that good, yeah, and
right? And keep those things away from you. So my best advice is to figure out how to move the energy around. So whether that's going to be, again, body work, whether it's Reiki, whether it's getting on your yoga mat and doing body work and stretching, Thai yoga massage, um, running around the block, jumping jacks. Even if you just get up out your bed and do jumping jacks, move that energy around in your body. Like one of my favorite things to do
Yeah, I'm gonna have to
now,
start doing
but not.
no,
that.
for
No,
real, just yeah,
seriously.
it's
For
crazy,
real,
yeah.
because I feel
Seriously,
you
like
when you said that. Like I be having to remove that energy because it does block me from doing what I
yeah, it
really
just
need
make
to
you
be doing.
tense.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah, and it makes you tense, and you can't focus, and you can't focus on what you should be
Shoulders
focusing on
hurt,
because
yeah,
your
yeah.
mind's
Yeah.
somewhere else, and your body's here with me, but your mind on the other side of town. Like you
Right.
have to
Right.
move the
Yeah.
energy out.
Brittany
Yeah,
told me to
clear it
shut
out.
up earlier. She was like, "Girl,
See,
shut up."
you was bringing in the wrong energy. You shut it up. We don't need that over here.
I was
She's
like,
a
"Okay,
worrier.
next subject."
Because
She's
if
a
you're gonna pray
worrier.
about it, you can't. If you're gonna pray about it, you can't worry about it.
Listen, so it's gonna happen, right? What are we going over it? A week before it too. Like, so you're living this death for 8 days. That's
For
crazy.
you died
I
every day for
only,
eight
yeah.
days that you woke up
Yes,
living with
girl, it
that.
was so funny. I couldn't even respond or say nothing. But okay, sis, she said, I was like, "You're right." She was like, "Shut up! I don't want to talk about
Hmm.
this."
Yeah, so release. So Reiki, energy work is a form of release, releasing the things that are no longer serving you, releasing those past experiences that are no longer serving you, releasing the people that are no longer serving you, right? Like
Oh, who are you
just
talking to
allow it to
today? You preaching
travel,
today? Where you going? Where you
allow it to
going?
travel, allow it to pass, right? Because you
Who
have to
needed to
release
hear
to
all this?
receive, because you
Right,
have to release to
right.
receive. So the quicker you release, the quicker you can start to draw in and receive.
Mm. So with that, and like I said, I don't want to keep harping on the new versus old or, but there are different uh, avenues, I guess, of releasing, with it being Western medicine. So we'll kind of go there. Um, the big wave is like everyone should get therapy. That's the way that you can release. You go kind of data dump on somebody else, and that's the new thing. Get these new medications. How does Gypsyblac, like the experience, or other practitioners like yourself, combat that, or maybe work with it? Like, how do you feel about those things?
For me personally, as a practitioner, I would rather work with it.
Okay.
Um, work with it to maybe get you to a point to work yourself off of it, because that was my personal approach. I'm not a doctor, so I would never tell a client to stop following a
Right.
regimen or to stop taking medications or anything like that. But I do have something a little different from my practice that stood out to me when you mentioned how popular the fads of therapy and things are. Depending on your therapist, therapy can just be a data dump.
Yeah.
It can just be a place to pour out, you know,
The
whatever's
stuff
on
you
your
can't
mind.
say. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
the stuff you can't say in other places, and that is very helpful. But me personally, I am very solution based. So it's cool. Let's get it out, but then let's put a solution together so that we don't have to talk about this, whatever this is,
Mhm.
again, right? So
Mhm.
I think that would be one of the things that stands out for me about how I, like, because I actually have a client right now where we will review her therapy notes, and I'm kind of like a checkpoint, like an accountability
Oh
partner in
wow.
between those sessions, because are you really holding up to whatever best practices were shared to you in that therapy session? Are you living up to it, or how do you apply it in these real life situations, so to speak? So yeah, I think it's helpful to work alongside with Western medicine, because that's just the world we live in, so you have to work
Right.
with it.
Right. No, I always, with my own walk and knowing what I've used, and, knowing some practitioners who are very, strong on, like, you don't need any of that stuff. You're supposed to do this and supposed to eat like
Yeah.
this. And, you know,
And
um,
I want to aspire to be there one day. I want to aspire to be there one day, but
hmm
it's just not yet
hmm yeah,
for me anyway. Because I mean, I still take a Tylenol. You know, I mean, I travel, I travel, so I still will take a Tylenol. Like, you know, you don't have access to all the herbs and everything that you need all the time. Like, I don't have time to maybe lay down on the mat and send myself into a 45-minute trance.
Yeah, just to calm down, right?
You know, it's okay to know that we, again, are human beings having a spiritual experience. You know what I'm saying? Like, or spiritual beings having a human experience
Yeah.
in this reality. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we have to. There's a balance. There's a balance. I mean, don't get me wrong. That would be the goal
Yeah.
at some point. You know, but until then, we can work
Right.
alongside Western medicine.
No, yeah, and that's how I feel. It's just, and it's also, remembering how we got to those points. What type of medicine were we doing to then elevate to get to a point where it's now like some type of drug. They had to mix some things and do some things too. But
Yeah.
definitely a great alternative and great knowledge to know that there are other rooted, and especially if it's in your culture, rooted ways of getting past this, and maybe
Yeah.
not the old age of like, go pray either. um,
Yeah.
because a lot of times people found that as dismissive. So, I don't knock it for anybody, wanting to expand and elevate their practices and just knowledge of self, because that's what I kind of find those practices are. Knowing what your body can do, what your mind can do, and what energy within yourself really means, and
and
how to transmute
calling
that.
and calling back your power,
Mm-hmm.
calling back your power, knowing how to care for your body, learn. But and I guess what makes it challenging sometimes is because we are saying things like call your power back, listen to your body, things like that, and people are often say, well, what's happening? That's what's happening, because you're disconnected from your body. You don't even know what it feels like when your body is talking to you, because the world we live in, you're so used to putting things off and not paying attention to it. Because I don't have time to worry about a feeling. I don't have time to feel a feeling. You don't have time for that, but you must. But we must. But we must. You must
Oh,
unplug from the matrix and listen to yourself. You must unplug from the matrix and listen to the voice in your head. They actually are your friend. They actually are your
and
friend.
if they aren't, go see someone.
Yeah, and if they not, then go. Or you know what? If they not, because I do the see. Here's the thing: that voice in your head has been with you forever.
They know you. Yeah.
They know you. They know you better than anything, right? They know the things that you don't remember. They know the things that you don't say out loud.
Every
So
time you lie, yeah.
so they know every time you lie. They know every time you've been lied to. They know every time you've ignored a feeling. They know every time you've felt uncomfortable. So the thing is, that voice in your head does become bitter,
Mm.
right? That voice in your head lives in your body with all that energy that I talked about, that we store in our bodies and in our cells and in our organs. All
Mm.
that energy, that voice in your head, your subconscious, lives in there with all of that. So she may be a little bitter. Don't be mad. I call her a bitter bitch sometimes, and she be acting up. But the thing is,
Right.
that's what self-love is. That's a
Yeah.
different level of self-love, when you have to learn to love her because she's a part of you.
Mm.
You know, that voice, your subconscious, that voice in your head that has experienced life with you up until this point, who you have to go in and soothe her and let her know that, hey, things are better now. I promise you they're better now. I know what you've been through. I know what you've seen, but
Girl.
things are better now. And even if they're not better now, maybe they're getting better. Hey, come, let me show. And I guess that's why I like some of the tangible things and mindfulness practices, because yes, go pray about it, right? That's the first thing. But once you've done talking to God about it, you can go and indulge in something that's going to physically, give you some relief, right?
Faith without works is dead. Yeah, you
Faith
gotta do
without work is
something.
dead, right? Yeah, you can't just pray about it and then just sit in the corner and say, I'm waiting on the boat, then God gonna send me. Like, you can't do that. You have to
You gotta get on it.
you got to get on the boat when it comes. You have to be an active participant in your healing. And I think that's why we
Yes,
have all
ooh,
these different healing modalities,
that,
available to us: tapping, herbal medicine, acupuncture, things like that. You have these things things like that. You have these things, these on all of those that I just listed are about releasing energy from the body. So obviously you have to get out what's in there. You have to purge in a sense. Which is why sometimes when you take plant medicine, one of the first things you do is purge.
Yeah, that detoxing, yeah.
Because it's a cleansing. Yeah. You know, get it out of there.
Yeah, I like that detoxing of the mind, body, and spirit, which a lot of times we don't really think that deep into it. You know, we always think about, you know, physical health, but yeah, what are you really doing and purging that mind and that bitter bitch in there? Are you
Yeah.
letting her get it out? Are you also letting her get it out? And are you making sure that you're healing that? No, that's amazing.
Yeah,
And
and you talk to her and you let her know that we're okay. And maybe you do that through affirmations. Maybe you do that through journaling. Maybe you do that through sound bowl meditation. You know, it's all different type of ways. You know, to heal that subconscious mind, to allow yourself to feel safe in the body that you're in, or feel safe wherever it is that you're going.
and with, you know, your practice and things, what do you find is the best, I guess, if I would say like starter kit, right? If I'm just like, hey, I really don't know what any of this stuff is. I'm just looking for new ways to, you know, kind of heal my trauma. I don't like sitting in the room talking to a woman. You know, what would I start with?
What like which healing mobility like would
Yeah.
be like a good starter? I would say journaling, free writing. You don't got to talk to nobody. Talk to yourself. Get a book, get a notebook and a pen, and write down the thoughts that write down the thoughts that just run through your mind, whatever
Right.
it is. Actually, let me add it. Let me add something to it and make it a whole thing. Light a candle. Get your notebook and your pen, quiet space. Set the intentions, whatever it is. Whether you're trying to release, whether you're trying to draw in, whether you're just trying to quiet the noise, whether you're trying to understand the noise, and sit there and just allow yourself to write whatever comes to your mind. I don't care if Ushawali Bang Bang is all that comes to your mind. Write it 20 times,
Because
right?
that
Just
comes to
free
my mind
writing,
first. Yeah.
right? Free writing, right? Get it out. And then before you know it, baby, you just you beat them, you know what I'm saying? You're, because it's a safe place. So if you're not comfortable with booking a session and sharing or going to
Right.
therapy and all that type of stuff, because you have to be more comfortable with yourself first. So I would say writing, but if you feel like writing is cool, sit in front of the mirror, take a shower. After you get out the shower,
Ooh.
and you naked. You got to be naked. Naked. No weave, no lashes, no earrings, no necklaces, no jewelry, no anklets, nothing. I see them eyes got big. Nothing.
Yeah, baby, because
And
I like getting naked. I'm gonna have to get naked and talk to myself, that inner bitch or whoever she is. Nah.
yeah,
I was gonna say, yeah.
get naked,
Talk about
get
tears
naked.
though. Yeah, I remember the first.
I was just
Yeah.
about to tell you the first time when my mentor introduced me to mirror work, it was